Amira Savani, and this is Xavier News.
From the Xavier University Television Studios, this is Xavier News. Your campus, your region, your world. This is Xavier News.
R&B and pop music icon Prince was announced dead yesterday at his Paisley Park compound in suburban Minneapolis. His publicist, Yvette Knowles-Scher, announced his death in the statement released to the public. His sudden passing comes on the heels of his recent hospitalization last Friday, when his plane was forced to make an emergency landing. His representatives told USA Today that he was struggling with the flu. Numerous celebrities and countless public figures have released tributes to the artist's legacy, including Spike Lee, Justin Timberlake, MC Hammer, and many others. The cause of death still remains undetermined by police.
Treasury Secretary Jacob J. Lew announced on Wednesday that Harriet Tubman would be replacing Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill in the year 2020, and that other notable females and civil rights leaders will both be added to the back of the $5 and $10 bills. Originally, the Treasury Department had planned to replace Alexander Hamilton on the $10 bill, but after the Broadway rap musical Hamilton became a sensation over the last year, the legacy of Alexander Hamilton has become more than just America's first Treasury Secretary. Tubman will be the first woman to have her face on U.S. currency since Martha Washington was on the $1 certificate in the late 19th century. Many of Xavier's clubs try to make a difference or give back to the community in some way, but Autism Speaks is trying to raise awareness about autism on our campus. Xavier News' Emily Brennan brings us the story.
Autism Speaks U is a nonprofit organization designed to support college students in their awareness, advocacy, and fundraising efforts for Autism Speaks.
Our main goal as a club is to contribute to the organization that seeks to change the future for all who struggle with the autism spectrum disorder. We're dedicated in assisting to fund global medical research into the causes, prevention, treatments, and a possible cure for autism.
The students involved in Autism UXU are extraordinarily committed in working to raise the funds necessary to support these goals.
We are having a formal this weekend. It's our very first time hosting this as our spring event, and we just really want to get Xavier students together, having a good time. We've raised about $2,900 so far, and all of that money is going back to Autism Speaks U at the national level.
Most students in the group have had close affiliations with the autism spectrum disorder, motivating them to advocate for the needs of these individuals and their families.
I had the opportunity to actually work with special needs kids for six or 7 years, I believe, and it really had an impact on my life. Obviously, having the opportunity to work with these individuals with these special needs, obviously you learn that they're no different from us. Obviously, they get treated differently, but they're really special people, and they literally are a joy to work with.
Since its inaugural event at Penn State in 2006, Autism Speaks U events and student-organized walk teams have raised over $7 million.
It's really important to me to get research for it and really to try to find out more about it and promote awareness of it so people are more knowledgeable of what interacting with a person who has an autism spectrum disorder is like, and really understanding that they're really no different than anyone else.
Autism Speaks and staff volunteers support students in their efforts while connecting them with other college students across the country. This is Emily Brennan reporting for Xavier News.
The Alabama legislature is currently in the process of attempting to impeach Governor Robert Bentley after reports have circulated of him having an extramarital affair with the staffer and misusing resources to cover up the affair. Rumors began circulating when Bentley attended the Black Tie Governor's Dinner at the White House on February 21st with his former senior political advisor, Rebecca Mason. Bentley's spokeswoman, Jennifer Artis, said about the White House dinner, quote, "It was a social event, but also a working event," end quote. 1 month later, phone conversation revealing the two had a romantic relationship surfaced. On March 21st, state police accused the two of having an affair and misusing state resources when their private phone conversations were made public. Mason resigned on March 30th, and both parties have denied a sexual relationship with each other. Bentley also denied misusing the state resources. Bentley did concede to make inappropriate comments toward Mason and apologize to her family and his. The impeachment proceedings are ongoing, with the state ordering documents and testimony from those involved in the process.
A meth lab exploded in a garage in Anderson Township early on Sunday. 2 men were sent to the hospital with severe burns from the explosion. Another resident of the home drove the men to the airport. A neighbor described the scene as hearing an explosion, then seeing smoke coming out of the window, and then seeing a man run out of the house. The men's identities have not been released, but they will face charges once released from the University of Cincinnati Hospital. Anyone with any information at all is asked to call the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office or Crime Stoppers. Xavier art professor Kelly Phelps has been trying to bring attention to the working class of our country through his art. Reporter Eli Bedell has the story.
Kelly Phelps is the chair of the art department and a professor of sculpture at Xavier University. Collaborating with his identical twin brother Kyle, the head of ceramics and sculpture at the University of Dayton, Kelly has been drawing attention to the plight of America's working class for years through their work, which highlights a struggle he is very passionate about.
It becomes too frequent that we open the newspaper or see a story on the news and, of a factory that's closing down. Now, when a factory closes down, the factory is the lifeblood of its community, so when the factory dies, so does the community.
Kelly and Kyle hope to give a voice to those who are often invisible in today's society.
Oftentimes you'll see art or sculptures or paintings of great politicians or sports figures and such, but I think it became really important to kind of identify our own kind of working class heroes. Our parents and the people who worked in our neighborhood that, were proud to work in these plants that, made American-made products.
Kelly wants to tell an American story encompassing all American workers who feel that they have been abandoned.
We try to capture as many different types of, working class genres as we possibly can, because after all, we live in a kind of a capitalist society where we just look at the end product, but we don't necessarily focus in on those who actually produce.
A huge part of Kelly's message highlights the problems of outsourcing production.
People are starting to realize that when a CEO makes 700 times the average salary as its worker, and it's cheaper for the company to go and send the entire factory overseas so that company can be more marketable and profitable, it becomes a real problem for me and for a lot of people.
Growing up in a former factory town with parents who were once employed in the factory, Kelly and Kyle have witnessed the downfall of American industry firsthand and aren't afraid to get dirty.
I think what's interesting with Kyle and I is that we actually conduct interviews with factory workers. We actually go and archive artifacts from these factory sites that are typically slated for demolition. Kyle and I have often jumped the fence and gathered materials illegally, legally, but we found it important to actually get those authentic elements.
Kelly sincerely hopes that this work will capture a time and place in American history.
So that's what Kyle and I think, part of what we do is journalism, part of it is being an archivist, the other part is being a visual artist, and we put all that together just to make art that lives on.
Reporting for Xavier News, this is Eli Beadle.
A shooting in Pike County, about 65 miles east of Cincinnati this morning, has left 7 people dead. Details are still coming in, but reports indicate that the 7 people were all members of the same family, 5 adults and 2 young adults. So far, police have announced no arrests or people of interest, but law enforcement has confirmed that they will execute multiple search warrants. Authorities are still uncertain if the shooter also may be one of the dead or still on the loose. Stay tuned to the local news for more details on this developing story.
Xavier Theater's production of the Tony Award-winning Rent this weekend has sold out their shows tonight and tomorrow, with tickets remaining only for their Sunday show. Rent centers on a group of struggling bohemian artists in New York City's East Village and is set against the backdrop of the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. The Xavier Theater program director, Stephen Skiles, directs the production, which is being performed in the Gallagher Student Center. Tickets for the show are available online and from the GSC box office for the Sunday show at 7:30. That's all from the news desk. Stay tuned with us for Daniel Bowling and the Xavier Sports Report.
I'm Daniel Bowling, and this is another edition of the Xavier Sports Report. Xavier Track and Field had a very successful weekend of events this past weekend at the Ball State Challenge, including 20 top 10 finishers and 17 personal records across both the men's and women's teams. The 4x100 relay teams for both teams captured third place finishes, while the men's team was anchored by sophomore Zachary Polk, who placed third in high jump and fourth in the 200-meter dash with a personal record in the latter. Freshman Grant Stapleton, who set a personal record and placed third in the 800-meter dash. The women's team was paced by junior Brenna McGrath and freshman Caitlin McGrain, who finished 6th and 7th respectively in the 400-meter dash, both setting their own personal records. On their performance, Coach said that the team, quote, took advantage of a great day to get out and compete well, end quote. The team is in action again this Saturday in Louisville, Kentucky at the Lenny Lyles and Clark Wood Invitational. On the professional scene, America's favorite pastime is back, and the hometown team has gotten out to an unexpectedly hot start. Your Cincinnati Reds started the season off with a sweep down at Great American Ballpark against the Philadelphia Phillies. At home, the Reds have had a very solid record of 7-3, propelling them to a total of 8-8 on the year and third in the highly competitive NL Central. Widely mocked as a team supposed to finish near the bottom, the Reds have shown that they aren't going down easy. The bats of Brandon Phillips, Zach Cozart, Eugenio Suarez, and a resilient Jay Bruce have helped fuel the offense in the early season, while the young arms of starters Brandon Finnegan, Robert Stevenson, and Raciel Iglesias have limited teams to very few runs. So while tickets are cheap and the weather is nice, go ahead and get on down to Great American and catch the Redlegs live in action. On campus, your Xavier baseball team heads into a big series with Big East foe St. John's this weekend, starting here on campus today down at Hayden Field at 3. Looking to avenge sweeps by the Red Storm the past 2 seasons, the team is certain to come out determined. The young team thus far has been led by Daniel Rizzi, who leads the team in batting average at .277, and Andre Jernigan, who already has 11 home runs and a team-leading .593 slugging percentage. While the team season hasn't exactly gone as planned, they could very easily swipe a few games versus the Red Storm, having beaten teams like Georgetown, Miami of Ohio, and of course, UC. Twice! My expert prediction, 3 very high-scoring games, but Xavier's long ball capability pushes them over the edge, and your Musketeers just sneak out with a series win. And while baseball is just getting into the swing of things, the NBA is winding down, as first-round playoffs have started here recently. Consensus around the league is that there are 3 teams who have true chances of winning the finals. The Cleveland Cavaliers with superhuman do-it-all player LeBron James, the San Antonio Spurs led at the helm by recently named Defensive Player of the Year Kawhi Leonard, and who else but the best shooting team of all time, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green sidelining MVP Steph Curry. All 3 teams are up comfortably in their first-round series and should move on with ease, but injuries have hurt all of these teams. For the Cavs, can Kyrie Irving return to his old form offensively? For the Spurs, can their old core of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker fight Father Time to stay healthy during the playoffs? And for the Warriors, will Steph be able to play? Curry left Game 1 with an ankle injury and has missed Games 2 and 3 to it as well. Without him, the Warriors have no chance whatsoever of living up to the title of best team of all time. Only time will tell with all these injuries, but regardless, these games will all 3 be great. That's all we've got from the desk today. I'm Daniel Bowling, and from both myself and the whole XUTV crew, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week for our last show of the year.